good here, fine. How about you, Tom?
On July the 20th, 1968, two men touched down on the dusty surface of a moon on a 12-foot-tall lunar module. On the surface of a moon, it left nothing more than a few footprints and artifacts, but back on Earth, it stirred chaos and excitement.
Man on the moon.
To the lunar landing.
Armstrong is on the moon.
The world celebrated to this technological achievement, but behind all the signs and fame, there is a much more political aim for this mission. Little known to everyone today, the mission to the moon did not just happen because it can be done. It is a result of a heated and controversial competition between two superpowers. And the moon mission is only one of the cards that those two are playing during this game of dominance. It is a race that took itself to space.
You have a grandstand seat here to one of the most momentous events in the history of science. In less than a minute, you will see the most powerful explosion ever witnessed by human eyes.
What these Marines witnessed was a world's first hydrogen bomb, detonated by the American military. According to the official report of the test, the hydrogen bomb is detonated for scientific and technical considerations only. But apart from that, it also stated that it is done because of a concern with foreign policy and diplomatic matters. Straight after the Americans dropped the nuclear bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki in 1945, the Soviets wanted a nuclear weapon as well. Eventually, they created the Manhattan Project of their own, giving life to a plutonium atom bomb. In the summer of 1949, it detonated in the barren deserts of Kazakhstan.
I think what surprised us was that, considering the devastation which had taken place in the Soviet Union as a result of World War II, we didn't think they would be able to amass the necessary infrastructure to develop the bomb, but they certainly did.
The clash between American capitalism and Soviet communism had created an icy tension between the two nations in the years after World War II. With a nuclear weapon at its disposal, the Soviets could easily destroy the United States city by city. Fear is hanging over the United States as the governments braced the population for possible nuclear attack, which led to the birth of a hydrogen bomb. On the 1st of November 1952, the United States detonated the world's first hydrogen bomb in Enewetak Atoll in the Pacific with a yield of 10.4 megatons, 1,000 times more powerful than the bomb dropped on Hiroshima. Both the Soviets and the Americans have a capability to create bombs, but now they also need to have a capability to transport them.
Dwight D. Eisenhower, do solemnly swear.
I, Dwight D. Eisenhower,
Do solemnly swear. So help you God.
so help me God.
On a cold January morning, Dwight D. Eisenhower became the 34th President of the United States. Just 1 year after the detonation of hydrogen bombs, the responsibility of succeeding the Soviets now fall on his hands. But deep in the offices and hallways of the White House, Eisenhower is worried that the Soviets might be more advanced in their military, and at any moment the Soviets might attack the United States with their airplanes and bombs. So Eisenhower came up with a plan.
The hopes of the world focus on Geneva, scene of the meeting at the summit. The president, in an effort to break the deadlock, made a precedent-shattering proposal, offering to submit a blueprint of America's entire military establishment to Russia, with permission to make authenticating aerial photographs if Russia would do the same.
The Geneva Summit, also known as the Open Skies Policy, allowed both the United States and the Soviet Union to record the progress of each other's military. Eisenhower's plan was to convince Khrushchev, the Soviet leader, to reveal the actual power of the Soviet Air Force. Despite openly criticizing about the policy in front of Eisenhower, Soviet leader Khrushchev agreed to the Open Skies Policy. And later that year, they demonstrated their power in an air show, with American officials attending.
Moscow skies are filled with the first public display of Russia's newest combat aircraft, startling Western observers with their quantity and quality. The Reds' big surprise.
Eisenhower's plans worked, and as a reaction to the rapid growth of the Soviet military, he began to increase the already happening illegal spying missions over the Soviet Union. In secret, Eisenhower began sending modified American bombers to the Soviet Union to spy on the military since the beginning of his presidency.
What Eisenhower is lusting for is a complete overview, the kind of thing that'll tell us where they all are. It's like playing a poker game in which you can look over the other guy's shoulder. Eisenhower believes that intelligence and surveillance is the answer to preventing a hot war.
However, Eisenhower doesn't have a choice. His spying mission's cover was blown when Soviet fighters intercepted one of the bombers above Vladivostok. Desperate, Eisenhower turned to the Killing Report, a top-secret plan that was hatched after that incident. It suggested that the United States send spy satellites into Earth's orbit, therefore they can spy on the enemy from space. At the same time, the Soviets are developing missiles for their military.
Khrushchev, around that period, came to the conclusion that missiles were the weapons of the future, and that warships were getting obsolete, bombers were getting obsolete.
Khrushchev kept his word. In response to Eisenhower's proposal on the satellite, the Soviets also declared the creation of a satellite of their own, sitting on top of one of their modified missiles. And that's what they did. All around the world, people listened in awe to this monotonous beeping noise coming from the radio. The beeping comes from a Soviet satellite, the Sputnik. The Sputnik was launched into space using an intercontinental ballistic missile on 4th October of 1957. Inside it carried nothing more than a battery and a radio that transmitted the beeping sound. In the Soviet Union, it was celebrated as an extraordinary achievement. But in the United States, the public is in uproar, and the government is trying to persuade that they are on the right tracks.
Our satellite program has never been conducted as a race with other nations. I consider our country's satellite program to be well designed and properly scheduled.
The public is not happy. The reason for this outrage is fear. Fear that American cities will be vulnerable to a nuclear assault. Again.
Sputnik came as a shock overseas. The American military and others realized that the period when they were out of reach had ended. A new era had begun when instead of a Sputnik, a nuclear weapon could not merely circle the Earth, but land where it was ordered to.
It was the 21st of April 1961. Times had changed from the 50s. Eisenhower is no longer in office, and Kennedy is now the President of the United States. But the biggest change of all, man had finally reached Earth's orbit. Yuri Gagarin, the person who achieved this feat, is a Soviet cosmonaut traveling on the spacecraft Vostok 1. In response to Gagarin's flight, President Kennedy issued a memo to the government. There, Kennedy gave government various options of what goals they can achieve to succeed the Soviets. One of the options presented to the government is to send someone to the moon. Everyone agreed, and Kennedy announced it on the 12th of September, 1962.
We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
And so they did. On July the 6th, 1969, Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and Michael Collins boarded a Saturn V rocket. Their destination is a moon. 3 days later, Armstrong and Aldrin set their foot on the silver body of rock, and Armstrong said his famous words.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
The space race was a roller coaster ride for both major superpowers. It tested the political strain from both sides, and it was fueled by joy, frustration, and fear. Most of us will just probably remember the pioneering days of space travel for the scientific achievements, but we should not forget politics that fueled it.